Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming, guys. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching me on YouTube or on Rumble, and also special thanks to all the viewers who appreciated the live streaming yesterday with Pepe Escobar. It was blasting, it was amazing, and so many thousands of people watched it. Guys, I saw some of the comments already that there is a conference in Berlin where I live in on the Gaza Strip and what's happening there. And there was an interruption by the police. And unfortunately, Germany blocked the Gaza hero, Dr. Ghassan Abu-Sittah, from attending Berlin Palestine conference. If you remember, there was a British doctor in the Gaza Strip, and he stayed there for many, many weeks at the beginning of the Israeli onslaught against the Palestinians of Gaza. And he was not only working as a doctor, but also reporting from the Gaza Strip on using his social media platforms to inform the world what Israel is doing to the Palestinians there. So there is a conference today in Berlin about Gaza, and he was invited, Ghassan Abu-Sittah, and unfortunately, the German authorities banned him from entering the country. So the report says that renowned Palestinian British Dr. Ghassan Abu-Sittah was barred from entering Germany on Friday, where he is due to speak at a pro-Palestine conference in Berlin about the challenges faced by medics in Gaza. The New Arab correspondent Rabia Eid, who is covering the conference, spoke to Abu-Sittah, who confirmed they didn't let him in, and he cannot now make a statement until the evening. Abu-Sittah, who was recently appointed rector of Glasgow University, is currently being held at the Berlin airport and will not be able to make to the conference. He said, invited to address a conference in Berlin about my work in Gaza, hospitals during the present conflict. He tweeted, the German government has forcibly prevented me from entering the country, silencing a witness to genocide before the ICJ adds to Germany's complicity in the ongoing massacre, he said, regarding the legal case filed against Germany due to its support for Israel. This was a tweet made by him just 2 hours ago, or 1.5 hours ago, before I joined this live streaming. So, guys, I am a Syrian migrant. I live in Germany. And in 2000, when I came to Germany in 2015, and I was naive enough to think that I am free to say what I believe in, right? Because there is freedom here, and you have a freedom of speech. Yes, you have freedom of speech, but this freedom comes with consequences. So when I spoke about my mind about what's going on in Syria, the German press, I'm sure 100% with the pressure from higher authorities, they came after me, they smeared me, and they even tried to deport me from Germany. The authorities came after me trying to deport me from Germany because I spoke my mind about what's happening in Syria. They called me propagandist. They said, you are not a journalist, you're a propagandist, so you don't have the right to say what you're saying because you're not a journalist, you're a propagandist, right? So they deprived me from the status of a journalist. Now, this is very dangerous. The case of Gaza and Palestine is more sensitive than the Syrian case. So the people who speak or speaking for the Palestinians and pushing against the Israeli onslaught against the Palestinians are getting punished, whether you like it or not. And Ghassan Abu-Sittah, one of the bigger names in the Palestinian community, he has a British passport, and he is too big to be cancelled, and despite that, they stopped him in the airport, right? So just for you to know how dangerous it is to speak the truth about what's happening, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Palestine, whether it's in Ukraine, it's very dangerous to speak the truth. And you could end up in a dungeon like Julian Assange. It's very dangerous, guys. So sometimes I see some of the comments telling me, oh, why didn't you use that word? Why didn't you describe it that way? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, do these people even know where I'm living in? I'm living in Germany. And Ghassan Abu-Sittah has been cancelled now, and he was barred from entering the country. If they can stop Ghassan Abu-Sittah from getting inside the country, they can just throw me out of the country very easily, right? So I'm trying to send a message, and I'm trying to walk over ticking bombs, basically, trying to be very careful of the words that I use and the terminologies that I use, sending the correct messages, but at the same time being cautious, because to be honest with you, it's dangerous. And if you think that's a fun, it's not. Believe me, if the higher authority comes after you, it's not fun. You are alone in this situation, unfortunately. I just wanted to make this point before starting the live streaming. I wasn't intending on doing this monologue, but just learned about what happened with Ghassan Abu-Sittah, and I wanted to report about it because some of you were already mentioning that in the live streaming, in the live chat. First, I want to speak about the Iranian. Iran says that they will respond against Israel. They will retaliate against Israel. And now we have a few leaders. For example, David Cameron came today and said, "Today I made clear to Foreign Minister Amir Abdullahian that Iran must not draw the Middle East into a wider conflict. I am deeply concerned about the potential for miscalculation leading to further violence. Iran should instead work to de-escalate and prevent further attacks," he said. And I replied to him I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Israel attacked the consulate of a sovereign nation on the soil of another sovereign nation. Israel is the aggressor right here. I mean, have he made that clear to the Israeli foreign minister? No, right? But he's making it that clear to the Iranian foreign minister and telling him that he has to be careful not to drag the region into regional war. And he knows, Biden knows, Blinken knows, Macron knows, Annalena Baerbock knows. Everybody knows in Europe and in the United States. Every serious geopolitical observer and analyst knows that Iran is managing the conflict and doesn't want to expand the war. Everybody knows this, that Iran is not interested in regional war, and Iran is trying to manage and contain the regional conflict and not to expand it. It's Israel who is trying to expand the conflict, but none of these leaders are ready to speak the truth. So I'm telling you the truth about this. Israel wants to expand the war. They're not able to achieve their military goals in the Gaza Strip. They want to drag the United States into direct war against Iran. This is their dream. After Iraq, after destroying Syria, after destroying Libya, now they want to come after Iran. And the only way to do so is to drag in the United States into this conflict, because Israel alone cannot match the Iranian power in the region. And please, nobody come and tell me nuclear war and not a nuclear war, because Iran is a very big country, and a nuclear strike, one or two, is not going to destroy it. And there is going to be retaliation, believe me. And there are going to be Russian and Chinese intervention in case of a nuclear attack. So I believe the Iranians are also protected now by the Chinese first, and also by the Iranians. And they're also enriching their uranium to record levels now. So they could also develop their own nuclears in order to establish deterrence in this case. Now, we have the President Macron. He jumped the wagon. I don't know who asked for his opinion, but he said that he addressed Iran's threats and said, quote, "We are approaching the moment of truth against Iran. The free world cannot allow Iran to emerge from the war as it entered it. The Ayatollah regime, which also threatens at this very moment to attack Israel, is not only Israel's enemy, but the enemy of the free world. We all share the values of freedom, freedom for women, freedom for LGBT people, freedom of expression, even for government opponents. What is the status of these rights and freedoms in Iran? What values does the Ayatollah regime represent? In the Middle East, only the state of Israel represents the values of the free world. The Ayatollah regime is an enemy of the values of freedom and an enemy of the peace that Israel seeks with the Arab countries, something that Hamas tried to stop on October 7. History books are being written as we speak. The whole world is watching the approaching clash of civilizations. And at this moment, we must decide, how do we want our countries and us to be remembered, according to Macron. So this is a clash of civilizations, guys, between good and evil again, and between the freedom-loving, peace-loving, civilized people and the barbarian Middle Eastern people who despise freedoms and despise civilized values and despise freedoms, everything. We despise these things in the region, and we are very jealous of the Macron's freedoms. That's why we hate France. This is according to him, right? This is the type of message that he's trying to send. This is the type of rhetoric that we heard after the 9/11 attacks. It's like they're recycling it right now. The only reason that the people in the region despise Macron, despise David Cameron, despise Joe Biden, despise Obama, despise the rest of the elites, the previous ones and the current ones, because of their meddling in the region and because of their policy of keeping the region in turmoil, because of their policy of turning these neighbors against each other, because of their policy of continuous non-ending wars in the region and plundering the resources of the people in the region. That's the reason. Those are the reasons why most of the people in West Asia despise these leaders. They don't dislike the people, they despise these leaders for plundering their resources and keeping them poor and meddling in their affairs. This all talk about freedom, democracy, blah, 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 LGBTQ plus SYZ, all these letters. Nobody cares in the region, in the Middle East or in West Asia, if you have all these rights or not, because this is exclusive for your own countries. Good for you. You want these rights to be established through laws, enforced on the people through laws, etc., etc. It's your own country. Do whatever you want in your own country. But when you come to the other countries in the region and try to enforce this on the people in the region and their governments and weaponize these rights and say, you don't have LGBT rights, you don't have a democracy, we're coming to bomb you now, right? That's why they hate you. That's the reason, right? And Austin, the Secretary of Defense of the United States, he says Israel can count on full U.S. support to defend itself. Pentagon Press Secretary Pat Ryder on Thursday night provided a readout of the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin's phone call with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Ryder said that Austin reiterated during the conversation with Gallant, quote, ironclad U.S. support for Israel's defense in the face of growing threats from Iran and its regional proxies. Quote, echoing President Biden's unequivocal message to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Secretary Austin assured Minister Gallant that Israel could count on full U.S. support to defend Israel against Iranian attacks, which Tehran has publicly threatened, the statement added. Earlier on Thursday, Iranian sources told Reuters that Iran has signaled to Washington that it will respond to the attack attributed to Israel on its Syrian embassy in a way that aims to avoid major escalation, and it will not act hastily. Iran's message to Washington was conveyed by Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian during a visit on Sunday to the Gulf Arab state of Oman, which has often acted as an intermediary between Tehran and Washington, the sources said. Finally, we have General Mikhail Kurilla. He's the head of the U.S. Central Command. He landed yesterday in Israel, and he expressed his full support and solidarity with the Israeli side and discussed the threat of an Iranian attack, etc., etc. And these U.S. officials all confirmed that they want to support Israel support Israel in face of an anticipated Iranian reprisal attacks. So, all these news are coming from the Israeli side and from this conflict in West Asia. And at the same time, under the table, Antony Blinken is quite worried about this escalation. So he is asking, or he already asked, the Chinese side to intervene and rein in Iran amid concerns about potential attack on Israel. So Blinken asked China's foreign minister and other counterparts to use their influence to dissuade Iran from striking Israel. The State Department said on Thursday. Blinken spoke to counterparts, including Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, and Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhad, quote, to make clear that escalations is not in anyone's interest and that countries should urge Iran not to escalate, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller told reporters. Blinken also spoke by telephone with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to reiterate our support, strong support for Israel against these threats, Miller said. Now, the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, she said Thursday that the United States has, quote, warned Iran over its threats to Israel. And Biden said that Israel's security was ironclad, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And Beijing, in turn, they criticized the United States for its biased position on Israel. So, Biden said that our support is ironclad, and he will continue supporting Israel in the region, regardless of the consequences. However, you have the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. I don't know what's your opinion about him, but he is trying to capitalize on this issue, and by telling really something that is incorrect in this regard. Let's take a look what he said first.
Biden has totally lost control of the Israel situation. He has abandoned Israel. He's totally abandoned Israel. And frankly, he's a low IQ individual. He has no idea where he is and who he's supporting. He doesn't know if he's supporting the Palestinians, but he knows one thing. He is not supporting Israel. He has abandoned Israel. And any Jewish person that votes for a Democrat or votes for Biden should have their head.
So for Trump, this is something... he's only concerned about elections, right? And him getting elected in the next presidential election. It's not about Israel, it's not about the Palestinians, it's not about Biden, and it's not about facts, because facts on the ground indicate that Biden is the most supportive president in the history for Israel in the history of the United States. There was no other president in the history of the United States who supported Israel as much as Joe Biden. Every one of them almost supported Israel to some degree. But the current one, probably because of the conditions that Israel is in due to this war situation, Biden has given a carte blanche to Israel to continue this onslaught against the Palestinians. And every other report that claims that the Biden administration is asking, is urging, is under the table, is angry, this and that, those are all about electoral issues, because they're losing the voters. Because only, I think, 15% of the Democrats now support the Israeli onslaught against Gaza, or the policy of the actions of Israel in the Gaza Strip. So Biden knows that he will lose the elections in November. And this is also, for him, it's an electoral calculation. It's not a foreign policy calculation, because if it wasn't, if there wasn't elections this year, Biden would not have hesitated to openly all the time support Israel. He is doing it, but without limits, right? So the only limit here is that they will lose the elections. So Trump knows this, and he's now claiming that Biden abandoned Israel. That's a complete big bullcrap, right? Biden has not abandoned Israel, and Biden is continuing to support Israel and has given recently $18 billion new military aid package to Israel, and this is going to continue. Because Israel is not only an ally of the United States, Israel is instrumental for the foreign policy strategy and the foreign policy objectives of the United States in West Asia. Israel is not like a state that is just an ally, like, let's say, France and the United States, or Poland and the United States. No. Israel, in the words of the RFK, is the eyes and the ears of the United States in the region, is the largest aircraft carrier for the United States in the region, and also it's a strong military power whenever the United States needs to strike any of the adversaries in the region, and name it. Israel is very, very important for the United States, and Biden knows that, and Biden will not abandon Israel at any point. They know that abandoning Israel is abandoning the United States and its strategy in the region, and means that if Israel crumbles, this means that the United States will not have any foothold in the region anymore. And the Chinese and the Russians will come first. They will finish all the chaos in Syria, in Iraq, and they will unify these countries through economic lines. There will be economic integration between these countries, and there will be peace in the region, basically. But the American economy is based on war. If there is no war in any parts of the world, then the US economy and the people who are in charge of the US economy, printing the money, the military-industrial complex, and the bankers, they will lose money. The only way for them to make money is to create wars. That's why unfortunately speaking, in the past 30 to 40 years, the United States was going from one war to another, because that's the type of economy that they have established themselves in the United States, and to sustain their economy. But this is not in the interest of the American people. It's in the interest of these small, tiny elites who are making and generating profits by going into wars, whereas the people in the United States are getting poorer and poorer, because when you print money, you are creating inflation, and it's a theft. It's an undeclared taxation of the people. So the mug that you used to buy for $1, it becomes $2, and then in a few years it becomes $3. It's the same mug, right? So the value of the dollar drops, and the United States goes into already into big debt, trillions of dollars of debt, right? So that's why you see this shift in the general mood in the region, because everybody in the Middle East, especially the leaders, can sense and see that the United States is losing its momentum. It's losing its dominance over the region. And that's why these countries, they want to seek their own national interests, and they're starting to diversify their relationship with the BRICS countries, right? And God forbidden, there could be peace in the region. So when I say God forbidden, it's sarcasm, right? And the Americans do not want that. The US establishment and the deep state there, they don't want that, unfortunately. Now, Iran said that there would not be retaliation had UN condemned Israel. And they said that had the UN Security Council condemned the Zionist regime's reprehensible act of aggression on our diplomatic premises in Damascus and subsequently brought to justice its perpetrators, the imperative for Iran to punish this rogue regime might have been obviated. This was according to the permanent mission of Iran to the UN. So they're basically saying that if the UN condemned Israel for its aggression against our consulate, we would have considered not to retaliate. Now, yesterday I spoke with Pepe Escobar, you know that, and I asked him what could be the nature of this attack, and also I gave my own opinion what could be the nature of this attack. I'm going to play to you a short video that I'm going to post tonight on my personal Twitter X account, which is a commentary video on the nature of the attack or the retaliation of Iran against Israel. And then I will ask you the similar question or the same question. I would like to hear your opinions, guys. How do you see the retaliation of Iran against Israel? Do you think that Iran will retaliate directly inside Israel or on Israeli assets around the world? Or probably, I will tell you where probably Iran could retaliate in this video. Take a look. Right after the October 7 events, Israel wanted to expand the war to Lebanon, but the United States intervened and pressured Netanyahu government not to do so, because they didn't want to trigger a regional war that can bring in Iran into a direct clash with the United States and also Israel. However, as Israel failed to achieve its military goals in the Gaza Strip, yes, they're killing people, but they're not achieving their military goals there, it seems that Israel once again wants to expand the war in the region. And this time, Israel attacked the consulate of Iran in Damascus, which means Israel violated the sovereignty of two nations, Syria and Iran, and violated the Geneva Convention, violated the Vienna Convention, and violated all international rules and norms and laws, right? Now, Iran vows to retaliate against Israel. And since Tehran is vowing to do so, we have the leaders of the civilized nations. We have David Cameron. He says that he has made clear to the foreign minister of Iran that Iran must not draw the Middle East into a wider conflict. We have Macron, who warned Iran not to attack Israel. And we have the Secretary of Defense of the United States, who said that Israel can count on the United States to defend itself. It seems everything is upside down under this rules-based order. Wars are peace, genocide is self-defense, and if you get attacked by another country and vote to retaliate, then you're the aggressor. Now, you may ask, how will Iran retaliate? Yesterday I was speaking with Pepe Escobar about this, and this is what I said during the conversation. Take a look.
It has to be carefully calculated, strong, decisive, rational at the same time. And of course, they cannot lose face if it's not strong enough. And they cannot go overboard, because then all bets are off. So you can imagine how difficult it is. And now, especially because they put their hands on the table, because Ayatollah Khamenei himself already said there will be a response.
Inside Israel, you think, the response?
It's a very good question. I would say that they would calculate to do it outside of Israel to minimize the response. So this would be symmetrical if it's outside of Israel. If it's inside of Israel, then we have hardcore hot war right away.
I mean, the Iranians are already, if you see it from objective lens, they are achieving slow but very effective achievements in the region. And if you see it from the 20 to 30 years from now, Iran is going to overcome the influence of the Americans and the Israelis in the region by playing a very, let's say, patient chess with the enemies. They don't need to go to war and rush into war.
Of course not.
Nasrallah said that we could win over the enemy probably without even fighting against them in a direct war. And this is what they call the strategic patience. So I fully agree with you that they don't want to go into direct war against Israel and give them the justification to retaliate, and then another retaliation, and the Americans come. But let's see. I mean, it's going to be probably in these 2 weeks, and I don't think it will be very far away from now. And it's going to be very interesting to see that why Abdullahian also came to Damascus to coordinate. Is it going to be on the Golan Heights? Probably, because Golan Heights is considered Syrian territory.
It's Syrian territory. Very, very important. That would be, I would say, if we have a list of a top 3 of best return for investment, I would put number 1 Golan Heights.
So what do you think? Do you think that Iran will retaliate directly on Israel or against its assets in the region, or probably against the Golan Heights, which is technically a Syrian territory? Let me know your opinions. So, let me know your opinions. Is it going to be on the Golan Heights? Is it going to be in Iraq? Because the Mossad has also headquarters there. Is it going to be in against an embassy, a consulate? I don't know. But it seems to me that the issue of striking the Golan Heights is more logical from the point of view of the Iranians, right? Because it's technically a Syrian territory. And they could hit 2 birds with 1 stone. And I don't know. We will have to wait and see how this retaliation is going to be from the Iranian side. Now, the title of this video says that Israel has been defeated, and why I named this video in this title, because I have read an article today in the Haaretz. The title says, "Saying what can't be said. Israel has been defeated, a total defeat. The war's aims won't be achieved. The hostages won't be returned through military pressure. Security won't be restored, and Israel's international ostracism won't end." And this is coming from Chaim Levinson. He is a Jewish Israeli author and journalist based in Tel Aviv, and he wrote this from Israel. And I would really like to read, in Arabic, we say the bottom of this article, so I summarized it. We have lost. Truth must be told. The inability to admit it encapsulates everything you need to know about Israel's individual and mass psychology. There is a clear, sharp, predictable reality that we should begin to fathom, to process, to understand, and to draw conclusions from for the future. It's not fun to admit that we have lost, so we lie to ourselves. Some of us maliciously lie, others innocently lie. After half a year, we could have been in a totally different place, but we are being held hostage by the worst leadership in the country's history. Every military undertaking is supposed to have a diplomatic exit. The military action should lead to a better diplomatic reality. Israel has no diplomatic exit. Theoretically, we could have been in a better place. The shock of the outbreak of the war could have been a starting point for a swift, powerful, aggressive, eminently justified campaign to quickly root out Hamas wherever that was possible. I truly don't know. Like, for example, this journalist says that theoretically it was possible to root out Hamas wherever that was possible in a different way, but he doesn't say how. And I don't see that. I don't really think that Israel was able to root out Hamas, neither in his whatever idea he has in his mind or through the Netanyahu's carpet bombing of the Gaza Strip. We could have created a viable alternative to Hamas in Gaza. After 6 months, there already might have been the first signs of independent government there. Every day and every minute, better decisions could have been made. We can't say it, but we have lost. People have an inclination to believe in the best and be optimistic, hoping that tomorrow will be okay, that we are in a process that in the end will be more successful. That's the most fundamental failure of human thought, the notion that the direction we are taking is a good one, that we just need to get there already, that in just a little more time, with a little more effort, the hostages will be returned, Hamas will surrender, and Yahya Sinwar will be killed. After all, we are the good guys, and good will triumph. He thinks that they are the good guys, but the good guys do not always win in wars, he says. My conclusion from October 7 as a journalist is that what's uncomfortable is the most dangerous thing for our society and our future here. That being addicted to feeling good is itself what's dangerous. We need to tell the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it hurts, even if some people deplore it, even if it lowers morale. We need to. I truly think that he doesn't understand the severity of the issue. I mean, telling the truth in this case and saying that Israel is losing the war and Hamas is not getting crushed and Yahya Sinwar is not going to get killed and the hostages are not going to get liberated, those are all killer arguments. And if you kill the morale of the Israeli Jewish people, especially the dual citizens, they will choose to leave and they will not stay any longer in Israel. And this is a very, very important issue. This is a decisive issue for Israel, that it's a safe haven for the Jewish people around the world to come to Israel and have a safety there, right? If that is destroyed and Israel is no more a safe haven for them, then one of the three pillars of the Israeli statehood is already broken, one of which is it's a safe haven for the Jewish people, and secondly, it has a strong invincible army, and three, it's the foreign support, right? So the first one is already being shaken. Like, it's no more a safe haven for the Jewish people. And October 7 attack was very huge shock for those who chose to come and live in Israel. And secondly, the IDF is not an invincible army. If not in the eyes of, especially in the eyes of the Arabic people now, or the people in the region can see that Israel is not an invincible army. So that's also a second element or pillar of the Israeli state is being shaken again. The third one is the foreign aid, foreign support, Americans, Brits, Germans, French, etc., right? So two of the three pillars of Israel have already been shaken, in my opinion, in this case. So they don't have any other option but to lie about this. This is just in my opinion. I'm not defending the Israelis, but if they tell the truth, it's going to be it's going to be devastating for the Israeli society. We need to stand up to the BB's propaganda machines, even if attack dogs are sniffing at our couch. If on October 1st, someone had said that the chief of military intelligence was incompetent, that military intelligence could plan successful operations but was incapable of providing a warning about the coming war, that Shin Bet was dozing and that we were about to get the whooping of our lives, such a person would have been perceived as crazy, defeatist, and out of touch. It's unpleasant to say, but we may not be able to safely return to Israel's northern border. See? To what had been before. Hezbollah has changed that equation to its own benefit. That's the situation. And that's true on every front. Not all hostages will return, either alive or dead. The whereabouts of some are lost, and their fate will remain unknown. No cabinet minister will restore our sense of personal security. Every Iranian threat will make us tremble. Our international standing was dealt a beating. Our leadership's weakness was revealed to the outside. For years, we managed to fool them into thinking we were a strong country, a wise people, and a powerful army. In truth, we are a shtetl. I don't know what shtetl is, but we are a shtetl with an air force, and that's on the condition that it's awakened in time. There is a political camp, the very survival of which pretty much depends on a, quote, victory. That camp has long since lost all touch with truth and reality. Rafah is the newest bluff that the mouthpieces are playing to fool us and make us think that victory is just moments away, but the time they enter Rafah, the actual event will have lost its significance. There may be an incursion, perhaps a tiny one, sometime, say in May. After that, they will peddle the next lie that all we have to do is fill in the blank, and victory will be on its way. The reality is that the war's aims will not be achieved. Hamas will not be eradicated. The hostages will not be returned through military pressure. Security will not be reestablished. Wow. This is a very, very devastating article, to be honest with you. And people who are reading it in Israel, this is scary, to be honest with you. This is very scary, and this is something that is touching the nerve, in my opinion, and is addressing actually many of the realities in Israel itself. But the part that he says that we should tell the truth, telling the truth has a really big price now. I mean, lying also has a price. And the Israeli society will face the bitter reality sooner or later, and the disappointment will be very, very big. I understand that. But if you are in the shoes of Netanyahu, you would still sell them the illusion that victory is in reach. You know, a few more steps and we will reach victory. And I think that the end is not going to be in favor of the Israeli side. It's going to be very, very bleak. It's going to be very, very dark for the Israeli people after this. And I don't see a way out of this conflict in a way that Israel is victorious and also repairing its reputation. I think Israel's reputation has been damaged beyond repair after this Gaza onslaught. Now, since I was reading this article, I remembered that a few days ago, I watched the interview of Norman Finkelstein on Al Jazeera English, and he almost said and mentioned these arguments in a different way, let's say, but almost the same. And I would like to screen this video to you because Norman Finkelstein, I consider him an intellectual authority over this case, and I think he nailed it here in this case. Take a look.
And it was striking. At the very end of the debate, I said that Israel now faces a strategic dilemma, a serious strategic dilemma. The dilemma is that a large number of people in the Arab world after October 7th suddenly came to the realization or the epiphany, Israel's not as strong as we thought it was, or Israel's not as invincible as we thought it was. Yeah. And Benny Morris at that point, Professor Morris, very smart guy, he kind of had a nervous laugh, and he said, "Ah, that's ridiculous. We have atomic bomb. We have nuclear weapons."
Right.
What was striking to me about that answer was he didn't say, "We have the IDF. We have the army." He had lost faith in it. So now he had to talk about the deterrence of their nuclear weapons. So I don't believe that October 7th was a passing error, mistake, a moment of incompetence. It was a reflection of the fact that Israel no longer is what it once was. Now, of
Are
course,
they going to flex their muscles, though, to prove that they actually do have capacity?
well, that's what they're doing now.
Goading perhaps Hezbollah.
Uh,
Obviously, we also have the Houthis in the Red Sea who with their sea blockade, and we also have the Hamas issue. I mean, there's a thought here that to show that they're
yes,
still
I
invincible.
think that's a very big problem there.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that Israel has one of its central military concepts, is what it calls its deterrence capability. And deterrence capability is just a fancy term for the Arab world's fear of us. And they are very worried now that the Arab world, because of what happened on October 7th, no longer fears them. And so one of the reasons for what's been happening is, in their language, to restore their deterrence capacity. And that does seem to include against Hezbollah. So I think we're very far from the end of what began on October 7th, and it could take forms which will be a regional and maybe a global catastrophe.
So, this was the response of Norman Finkelstein to this question about the strategic dilemma that Israel is living through. So, the Israelis are faced with a few bitter options, to be honest with you. And even removing Netanyahu, it doesn't seem like it's going to change anything at the moment. It could change some of the policies, but if you change a government or change a politician or prime minister, it's not going to undo what the Israeli occupation forces have done in the Gaza Strip. And it's not going to undo the charges against the Israeli officials. And it's a very hard case, and one of which is that Israel is standing in front of the ICJ, is accused of committing genocide, having the intention also to commit genocide in the Gaza Strip, and eventually Germany also standing in front of the ICJ because of its defense of Israel. So not only Israel, but also the allies of the Israel are accused of being complicit, right? It's a very hard situation, in my opinion. And this also shows the situation on a global level, right? The global South countries like South Africa is taking Israel to the court, to the ICJ. And we have Nicaragua taking Germany to the ICJ. So the global South countries are getting emboldened. And I don't think that this is a coincidence. It also is a reflection of the balance of power around the world and the shift in the balance of power. And I also don't think that this was possible. This has become more possible, I would argue, after the Ukraine war. The strategic defeat of NATO, which is on the way in Ukraine, has had enormous implications on the balance of power around the world. And this has also emboldened the global South countries. And this was also, if you remember, when the United States asked the rest of the world to join its sanctions orgy against the Russian side, they didn't join it. So this is also a reflection that we are moving from a unipolar world into a multipolar world. Those are all indications that we can observe with our bare eyes and see how this situation is developing, right? Now, what could happen if Israel crumbles? Throughout history, you have big empires, from the Mongols, who had the biggest and largest empire in the entire universe, right? I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Romans, the Greeks, then the colonies, the Portuguese, the Brits, the Americans in the 21st century. I mean, they all come and go, right? I mean, Israel may not be an exception, because every country may disappear. The people don't disappear, but countries and borders sometimes disappear. So what would happen if Israel fails? Right? This question should be addressed. We're analysts, we're commentators, we're discussing what would happen if Israel loses this war, or what would happen if the dual citizens in Israel decide that Israel is no more a safe haven for them and they want to leave, and the Israelis decide that it's not worth it, right? They're safer probably in Europe or elsewhere. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions, right? I posed this question to Tarek Chiril Amar, if you remember. We had a conversation together last week or 10 days ago about this case, and I posed this question to him. And I asked him what would happen. So this was his answer. Take a look.
There is a red line for every state, ultimately, right?
Yes.
And the red line is that if you become unbearable enough for your neighbors, right, sooner or later, your neighbors will take care of you.
Yeah.
And I think this is the fate that is awaiting Israel. And so it's not to be misunderstood. I'm not even investing much emotional energy here, even if it should sound like it. I'm just stating something which becomes more and more obvious. And if somebody who's very pro-Israel wants to blame someone for bringing about the end of Israel, well, that should be the Israeli leadership. And in fact, many Israelis as well who are participating wholeheartedly in its horrible criminal policies. This is a state that is bringing its downfall on itself. I think this is what we are watching now. This can take a while, but frankly, I don't think the map of the world in 2100 will show in Israel. I don't think so anymore.
How do you see this when when the downfall is, according to your prediction? How do you see the situation there? What about the Jewish people there? Because the downfall of the Israeli entity as a political entity, it's always equated to a genocide against the Jewish people, right?
Yes. So let me make the following comparison, which is not new. I've made it before, but so many people cannot distinguish these two things, right? The state of Israel and all the civilians living in it, the Israeli civilians in this case, right? We don't have a Nazi Germany on this planet anymore. Nazi Germany was ended as a state entirely. And then they set up two new Germanys, right? This happened in 1945, right? We have plenty of Germans. Nobody murdered all the Germans, fortunately, right? So the Germans didn't pay with being mass murdered for the many crimes that Germans had committed when they were Nazi Germans.
Yes.
Israel, I think, has a similar future. The state will cease to exist. And I very much hope that the vast majority of Israelis will not be collectively punished for its crimes. I very much hope that. I think this is very important. Israelis, many Israelis, not all of them, but many Israelis have turned out to be supporters of genocide, participants in genocide, and perpetrators of genocide. So let us be very, very clear. We, on the other side, who do not agree with them on genocide, we do not want genocide for anybody. I know they constantly project this. There's this constant, insane Israeli projection where they're committing a genocide, but then they're telling the world, we are so afraid of you committing a genocide. I'm sorry, this is nonsense. The state will end, the state should end, and the vast majority of Israelis should, of course, not be subject, and no Israelis should be subject to indiscriminatory violence. No, the state should be defeated. This will mean that its armies will suffer. This is what happens in actual war, as opposed to when you just commit genocide. When you fight an actual enemy, yes, you will take casualties, but that's actually more normal. After that, when the Israeli state will be defeated in the future, I would anticipate the emergence of a sovereign Palestinian state, which does belong on this spot, on the map. That's what should be there, right? Palestinian courts will then have to deal with those Israelis where there's clear evidence that they have participated in crimes. This is normal, right? This is nothing special. This is not discrimination. If you participate in a crime, you end up in a court. This is very, very normal. If somebody tells you you can participate in a crime, but you will never be punished, that is actually a form of positive discrimination, right? So if you're treated like anybody else, those Israelis, generals, but maybe down to ordinary soldiers, where it can be proven that they have participated in crimes against Palestinians, they may face Palestinian courts in the future. They should, in my view. I would then hope that these courts will treat them in fairness, right, even while handing out the punishment that they deserve. This is all normal.
Yeah.
All other Israelis, where such things will not be proven, I would hope, I'm speculating here, but that they would be given a fair choice, which is you can stay, you can live as an equal citizen in a free and democratic Palestine. You will not have apartheid privileges anymore. You will be like everybody else, but you can stay if you obey the laws of this country. This is very normal again. And those who really don't want this, who can only imagine an existence as a privileged apartheid minority, right? Those should be free to leave. None of this is genocidal. None of this is ethnic cleansing. It's actually the opposite. I would very much hope that a future defeat of Israel will be followed by a very generous offer to all the Israelis who have not committed crimes to stay, as long as they obey the laws of the new state and are trying to be ordinary members of this new society, equal to everybody else, right? That's what I think might happen after the destruction of the Israeli state, not the Israeli society or people, the state.
So those are really harsh words from him. What do you think about it, guys? Do you think it is logical, it's possible, it is convenient? What do you think? Let me know your opinion. We are here also to discuss different opinions on this case. I just want to give special thanks to Daniela for her generous support, always watching the live streamings of Syriana Analysis and contributing in the support of Syriana Analysis. Thank you so much, Badra, for becoming a YouTube member of Syriana Analysis. And also special thanks to Alexander Grimso. He has gifted not only 10 memberships, he has gifted 10, 30, 40 YouTube memberships. Thank you so much, Alexander. It's I'm so happy to see that, and happy to see that this support is ongoing of Syriana Analysis, and also by Alex Glanz, also very generous support. I was checking today that finally I am able to pay for a subscription to the StreamYard, this software that I'm using for my live streamings. Unfortunately, it was only possible to upgrade to a better plan via credit card. I don't have a credit card, just a debit card. So I wasn't able to get one. So thanks to your support as well, guys, I'm going to upgrade this software at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. Also, thank you, the Iranian Putin. You're the proof, living proof that I'm getting paid not only by Iran, but also by Putin. So I'm going to upgrade this software. I'm going to buy the one that I can also broadcast live streamings in full HD, so 1080p. At the current moment, this is a regular plan. It's only 720p. So starting next month, I'm going to do live streamings full HD, so the quality is going to be even better with so many other features. I'm excited about that. So now my weekend starts. It's Friday afternoon, 6 p.m. Central European time. It's 12 p.m. in Eastern American time. I wish you all, guys, a great weekend, a peaceful weekend. Peace be upon you, upon your families. We will see each other again on Monday, 5 p.m. Central European time, 11 a.m. Eastern American time. Salam.